It was a quiet night, the kind of night when the air feels heavy and every sound seems louder than it should be. The streets were almost empty. Streetlights flickered weakly, throwing pale yellow circles on the cracked pavement. A young man named Daniel walked home after a long day at work. He was tired, his body ached, but his mind refused to rest. Something in the silence bothered him. It felt too deep, too unnatural, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Daniel adjusted his backpack and quickened his pace. Normally, this road was safe, but tonight it felt strange. He kept looking over his shoulder even though he told himself there was nothing there. The sound of his footsteps echoed, each step bouncing back at him, reminding him he was alone. At least he thought he was alone. As he passed under another flickering streetlight, Daniel felt it, the sharp sensation that eyes were on him. He stopped and turned quickly, scanning the shadows. There was no one. The building stood still, windows dark, doors closed. Yet the feeling grew stronger, like someone was hiding just beyond his sight. He swallowed hard and started walking again, faster now, almost at a jog. Then, from the corner of his eye, he saw movement. A shape slipped across the narrow alley to his left. His heart jumped. It was too fast for a normal person. He froze in place, his breath catching in his throat. He told himself it was just a cat or maybe his imagination. But deep down he knew better. "Who's there?" He called out, his voice shaking slightly. The only answer was the hum of the streetlight above him. He turned back to continue walking, but this time the shadow stepped out in front of him. Daniel froze. It wasn't a shadow anymore. It was a girl. Or at least she looked like one. She was thin, with long hair that shimmered faintly as if catching a light that wasn't there. Her skin was pale, almost glowing, and her eyes burned with a strange silver light that no human eyes should ever have. Daniel took a step back, fear surging through him. His instincts screamed at him to run, but his body refused to move. The girl raised one hand, not in threat but in warning. "You must listen," she said. Her voice was soft but carried a strange echo, as if more than one voice spoke at the same time. Daniel's heart hammered in his chest. He tried to speak, but no words came out. The girl stepped closer, and though she moved gently, there was something unearthly about her. Daniel could see now that her clothes were unlike anything he had ever seen, dark, woven with glowing threads that seemed alive. She looked human, but everything about her whispered one word: alien. "What do you want?" Daniel finally managed to say, his throat dry. The girl tilted her head, studying him carefully. Then, in a voice that seemed both urgent and sad, she said, "Your own people are stealing from you." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" he asked, but she shook her head. "There is no time," she whispered. Her eyes darted around, scanning the shadows as if someone might be listening. "They take what is yours, what belongs to your world. You must see the truth before it is too late." Daniel's skin prickled with fear and confusion. He wanted to ask more, to demand answers, but the girl suddenly looked frightened. She glanced over her shoulder as if hearing something he could not. "They are coming," she said quickly. "You are not safe here. None of you are safe." Before Daniel could move, before he could even blink, she stepped back into the shadows. Her form seemed to blur, like smoke caught in the wind. Then she was gone. Completely gone. Daniel stood there frozen, his breath heavy and uneven. The street was empty again, silent as before, but nothing felt the same. His heart raced. He looked around desperately, half hoping, half dreading that she would appear again. But the street was lifeless, as if she had never been there. For a long time, Daniel did not move. The girl's words echoed in his head, words that refused to leave. "Your own people are stealing from you." What could that mean? Who was she? Why did her warning feel so heavy, so dangerous? At last, Daniel forced himself to walk, though every step felt heavy. The night no longer felt like any normal night. Every shadow seemed alive. Every sound carried hidden meaning. The girl's glowing eyes haunted his thoughts. He knew he would not sleep tonight. He knew he could not simply forget what had just happened. As he turned the last corner toward his apartment, he glanced once more behind him. The street was empty, yet deep inside he knew he was no longer walking alone. Something had changed. The city, his life, perhaps even the world itself. It would never be the same again. And the worst part was, he had no idea what was coming next. Daniel did not sleep that night. He lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, the darkness pressing down around him. The girl's silver eyes haunted him, and her strange words kept repeating in his mind. Your own people are stealing from you. What did that mean? Who were his own people? And what could they possibly be stealing? The thought unsettled him more than the girl's sudden appearance. If it had been an alien or monster threatening him, at least he could understand the danger. But the warning suggested something deeper, something hidden in plain sight. He turned over again and again, his body restless. Every creak of the floor, every hum of the city outside felt strange now, as if the world had shifted slightly off balance. He remembered the way she had looked over her shoulder, frightened like someone was chasing her. If she was afraid, then whoever she feared must be powerful. And if what she said was true, then they were not only powerful but human. That thought alone made his chest tighten. By morning, Daniel was exhausted. He dragged himself to work, but he could not focus. His coworkers chatted about normal things, traffic, bills, the latest news, but he barely heard them. Their words sounded distant like an echo. He kept scanning faces, searching for some sign that they knew the truth. But everyone seemed blind, trapped in their routines. At lunch, he sat by the window and stared at the street. Delivery trucks rumbled by, their cargo covered with thick tarps. He had seen those trucks before, always at night, always guarded. Suddenly a memory hit him. The night after the girl appeared, he had noticed those trucks moving fast down the road near his apartment. He had not thought much of it then, but now it seemed different. Were they part of what she meant? Daniel tried to shake it off. Maybe he was overthinking. Maybe the stress of work and lack of sleep were making him imagine connections that weren't there. But when he turned on the evening news, his doubts grew again. The reporter smiled as she delivered the headlines. Minor shortages in several neighborhoods this week, but officials assure us everything is under control. Supplies are stable and there is no reason to worry. Daniel frowned. Supplies. Shortages. He had seen the empty shelves himself, had heard neighbors complain about missing goods. Yet the officials always said the same thing. Everything is fine, but what if it wasn't? What if something or someone was taking what belonged to them? The alien girl's voice echoed in his head again. They are stealing from you. He turned off the TV and sat in silence. The more he thought about it, the less it felt like madness. It was not just food. Power blackouts had become common. Whole sections of the city went dark for hours without warning. The authorities blamed technical problems. But Daniel had seen workers patch the same wires again and again, never fixing anything. Late that night, unable to ignore his growing unease, Daniel left his apartment. He needed to see for himself. The streets were quiet again, though not as empty as before. He noticed people gathered in small groups, whispering complaints about shortages. No milk again today, one woman said. Lights out for 3 hours last night, another muttered. The anger in their voices was clear, but it was the hopelessness in their eyes that struck him harder. Daniel walked farther, his steps carrying him toward the industrial edge of the city. There, under dim streetlights, he saw them, the same trucks he had noticed before. They rolled past silently, guarded by stern-looking men. No logos, no markings, only dark paint and covered cargo. He followed them at a distance, his heart pounding. The truck stopped near a fenced compound heavily secured with cameras and guards. Through the gaps in the fence, Daniel caught a glimpse of strange machines inside, glowing faintly with a light he had never seen before. Large cables ran out from the machines into the ground, pulsing as though they were sucking something unseen from beneath the earth. Daniel's breath caught. He could not believe what he was seeing. It looked wrong, unnatural. And suddenly her words made sense in a terrifying way. They are stealing from you. Could it be that his people were not only hoarding supplies, but draining the very energy of the planet itself? A deep chill spread through him. He stumbled back from the fence, his mind racing. Was this what she had tried to warn him about? If so, then she had been right. It was not aliens attacking them. It was their own leaders, their own people, draining life from the world while pretending everything was normal. Daniel hurried home, shaken. He tried to tell himself he was mistaken, that maybe he had misunderstood what he saw. But the images burned in his mind, the glowing machines, the pulsing cables, the guarded trucks. No explanation could erase them. When he finally returned to his apartment, he locked the door and sat down heavily on his bed. His doubts had grown into something else now. Fear. Fear of the truth. Fear of what would happen if others discovered what he had seen. Fear of what would happen to him if he tried to speak. The alien girl had told him he was not safe, At first he had thought she was warning him about her own kind. But now he wondered if she had meant something worse. Maybe the real danger wasn't from outside. Maybe it was already here, inside his world, hidden behind human faces and polite lies. Daniel pressed his hands over his face, his heart pounding. He wanted to forget, to push it all away and return to a normal life. But deep down he knew there was no going back. He had seen too much, and for the first time Daniel realized he could no longer trust his own people. The following nights, Daniel could not rest. Every time he closed his eyes, the image returned. The truck slipping into the guarded compound, the strange machines glowing faintly in the dark, cables like veins digging into the ground. He tried to tell himself it was none of his business, but his curiosity gnawed at him. Curiosity and fear. He could not forget the alien girl's warning. The more he thought about it, the more he realized he could not turn away. On the third night, Daniel made a choice. He would go back to the compound, not to stand outside the fence this time, but to see what was really happening inside. His chest tightened at the thought. It was dangerous. If he was caught, he might never walk free again. But he had to know. The city was quiet when he left his apartment. The streets glowed with dim lamps, some flickering, others already dead from the rolling blackouts. He moved carefully, his hood pulled low. The walk to the compound felt longer this time. Shadows seemed to follow him. Every sound stretched thin in the silence, yet nothing stopped him, and soon he found himself standing near the same fence. The compound loomed like a beast in the night, metal walls and tall watchtowers guarding its secrets. A hum filled the air, low and constant like the sound of a giant engine. Daniel pressed closer to the fence, crouching low. He watched the guards pacing back and forth, their rifles hanging at their sides. He waited, timing their movements. When one guard disappeared around the far corner, he slipped along the fence, searching for weakness. His fingers brushed against the cold steel links. Then, to his surprise, he found a small section cut open, as if someone had been here before. The wire edges were bent back, leaving just enough space for a person to crawl through. Daniel hesitated, his heart racing. Who had cut this? Was it the girl? Or someone else who knew the truth? He forced his breathing to steady, then dropped to the ground and slid inside. The hum grew louder the moment he entered. The air felt heavier, charged, almost electric. He crouched behind a row of stacked crates and peered out. The sight made his blood run cold. Massive machines stood in neat lines, their surfaces smooth and black, veins of light pulsing across them. Thick cables snaked from their bases deep into the soil, glowing faintly with a sickly blue energy that seemed alive. Daniel could feel it, a vibration under his feet, as if the machines were drinking something from beneath the earth itself. Workers in uniforms moved between the machines, checking panels, adjusting controls. They worked quickly, almost mechanically, their faces pale under the harsh floodlights. Trucks lined up nearby, each one loaded with sealed containers that hissed and glowed faintly from within. Daniel stared, trying to understand. What was in those containers? What were they stealing? A sudden thought struck him, energy. It wasn't coal, oil, or any resource he knew. It was something invisible, something vital. Could it be the planet's very life force? The idea was terrifying, but the sight in front of him left no other answer. His own people were draining the world like parasites, feeding these machines, filling containers, shipping them away in silence. Daniel's mouth went dry. The girl had been right. His leaders were lying, stealing from their own people. And worse, whatever they were stealing wasn't just supplies. It was something deeper, something that could kill the world itself. He ducked lower as two guards passed by, their voices low. He couldn't catch every word, but he heard enough. Next shipment tomorrow. Another transfer off-world. His stomach dropped. Off-world? Did that mean aliens were involved too? Were humans working with something else? The thought made him shiver. He pulled back into the shadows, fighting to steady his breath. His heart hammered against his ribs, each beat louder than the last. He had seen too much, but not enough to understand. He needed proof, something real, something he could hold in his hands. Creeping forward, he slipped into a darker section of the yard. There, behind one of the smaller machines, he saw a panel half open, wires hanging loose. His hands trembled as he reached out. Inside the panel, a small glass cylinder pulsed with blue light. It was warm to the touch, vibrating faintly. Without thinking, he pulled it free and slipped it into his pocket. The The moment he did, the machine gave a low groan, its lights flickering. A worker turned, frowning, scanning the shadows. Daniel's blood froze. He dropped low and crawled behind a crate. The worker muttered something and walked away. But Daniel knew it was only a matter of time before someone noticed. His escape was clumsy, his breath ragged as he sprinted back to the fence. Crawling through the cut wire, he scraped his arm, but he barely felt it. He ran until his lungs burned, until the compound was far behind. Only then did he stop, leaning against a wall, pulling the glowing cylinder from his pocket. It pulsed in his hand, casting faint blue light across his face. It was beautiful and terrifying at once. This was proof. Proof that something unnatural was happening. Proof that the alien girl had told the truth. But what was he supposed to do with it? As he stood there in the shadows, a new thought hit him with icy clarity. If the guards discovered the missing cylinder, they would know someone had been inside. They would hunt him. And if they caught him with this, he would not live to tell anyone. Daniel slipped the cylinder back into his pocket and walked quickly, his head low, his body trembling with fear and adrenaline. He had uncovered a secret, but secrets came with a price. Now he was part of the story, whether he wanted to be or not. And somewhere in the darkness, he could not shake the feeling that the silver-eyed girl was watching. Daniel barely slept after stealing the glowing cylinder. It sat hidden under his mattress, pulsing softly as if alive. Every few minutes he checked to make sure it was still there, afraid it would vanish or burn through the floor. The strange blue light painted his small apartment in a ghostly glow, and he could not stop staring at it. The girl had been right. His own people were draining something from the earth. He had seen it with his own eyes. But the more he thought about it, the more questions piled up. What exactly was inside the cylinder? What were the machines pulling from the ground? Who were they sending it to? He wanted answers, but he also feared them. By the next night, Daniel's nerves were frayed. He jumped at every sound, every knock, every passing car. He felt exposed, as if invisible eyes followed him everywhere. On his way home from work, he even thought he saw one of the compound guards in the crowd. He ducked down a side street, heart racing, but when he turned back, no one was there. Maybe he was losing his mind. Or maybe they were already watching him. When he entered his apartment that night, the air felt wrong. Too still, too quiet. He shut the door behind him, his chest tight. Then he heard it, a soft voice from the shadows. "You went there." Daniel spun around, his eyes widening. She was there, the alien girl. She stood near the window, her pale skin glowing faintly in the darkness, her silver eyes locked on him. "You followed the truth," she said softly, stepping closer. Daniel's mouth went dry. He could barely speak. How did you find me?" Her expression was calm, almost sad. "I never lost you." The words sent a chill down his spine. He looked toward the mattress where the cylinder was hidden, then back at her. "You knew about it. The machines, the trucks, the stealing. Why? Why is this happening?" The girl's gaze grew heavy. She reached out and touched the wall, her fingers glowing faintly as if she could feel the pulse of the building itself. "Your leaders have made a choice," she said. "They are trading the life of your world for power." Daniel shook his head. "Trading? With who?" She looked at him with eyes full of sorrow. "With beings who are not from here. My people call them the collectors. They move across the stars taking what they need. Your leaders give them the essence of your world in exchange for weapons, technology, and control. They think it makes them strong. But it only makes them slaves." Daniel felt his stomach drop. The glowing cylinder under his mattress suddenly seemed heavier, more dangerous. "So this is part of it?" The girl nodded. "That is the essence, the living energy of your planet. Once enough is taken, nothing will grow. Your seas will rot, your skies will burn, and your people will fight each other for scraps until nothing remains." Her voice trembled as she said it, and for the first time Daniel realized she was not just warning him, she was afraid too. He swallowed hard. "Why are you telling me this?" "Why me?" For a long moment she was silent. Then she stepped closer, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "Because you saw me. You listened. Most would run. Most would deny. But you doubt, and doubt is the beginning of truth." Daniel wanted to believe her, but fear clouded his thoughts. He pressed a hand to his forehead. "What am I supposed to do?" "I'm just one person. If what you're saying is true, then it's too big. It's impossible." The girl shook her head firmly. One person can change everything. One spark can start a fire, but you must decide if you are willing to burn. Before Daniel could answer, she suddenly stiffened. Her eyes darted to the window. They are near, Daniel froze. Who? The ones who watch. They followed the signal. She looked at him sharply. The cylinder. It is not safe here. They can track it. Daniel's chest tightened. Then what do I do? She stepped forward quickly, placing a cold hand on his shoulder. The touch sent a shiver through him, like static crawling across his skin. Keep it hidden. Trust no one, not even those you love. The moment you speak, they will silence you. Daniel's heart pounded. And you? Will you help me? Her silver eyes softened. I will try. But if they find me, I cannot protect you. You must be ready to protect yourself. Suddenly, a noise broke the silence, a sharp knock at the door. Daniel's blood froze. He turned, staring at the door handle as it rattled once, then stopped. The girl's voice dropped to a whisper. Do not open it. He looked back at her, but she was already stepping toward the shadows. Her form shimmered, blurring like mist in the moonlight. Remember my words, she whispered. If your world falls, mine will be next. And then she was gone, leaving only the faint echo of her voice in the room. The knock at the door came again, louder this time. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. He backed away slowly, eyes darting between the door and the empty shadows where the girl had stood. Whoever was outside, it wasn't a neighbor. It wasn't a friend, and he knew deep down that if he opened the door, his life would never be the same again. The knock came a third time, heavy and demanding. Daniel stood frozen in the dim blue glow of the hidden cylinder, knowing that the choice he made next could decide not just his fate, but the fate of the world itself. Daniel spent the entire night sitting on the floor, his back pressed against the wall, staring at the door. Whoever had knocked 3 times never forced their way in. The silence that followed was almost worse than the sound itself. Hours passed, but he did not move, afraid that any sudden motion would draw attention. Only when the first gray light of morning crept through the blinds did he finally exhale. But peace did not return. His thoughts spun wildly, torn between panic and determination. The alien girl's words circled in his head. Trust no one. They will silence you. He looked toward the mattress where the cylinder was hidden. It still pulsed faintly, its glow visible through the thin fabric. He reached for it, pulled it out, and held it in his hands. The strange energy inside thrummed gently like a heartbeat. It felt alive, almost aware. Was this really the essence she spoke of? Was this what his leaders were trading away? The weight of the decision pressed down on him. He could take it to the authorities, but what if they were part of the betrayal? He could show it to his friends or co-workers, but what if they didn't believe him? Worse, what if they reported him? He imagined soldiers breaking down his door, dragging him away in the middle of the night, the same way rumors said others had vanished. He thought of his neighbors, their tired faces, their whispered complaints about shortages. If they learned the truth, maybe they would rise up. But if he revealed it too soon without proof, he would only disappear like the rest. Daniel rubbed his temples, his chest heavy with fear. What am I supposed to do? He whispered into the empty room. That day at work was unbearable. Every person he saw looked suspicious. He imagined which ones might be watching him, which ones might report him. Even his closest co-worker, a man named James who often shared lunch with him, now seemed dangerous. James laughed easily, spoke kindly, but Daniel caught himself wondering, what if he's one of them? The paranoia ate at him until he avoided everyone, eating alone in a corner and leaving quickly after his shift. As he walked home, the streets seemed to watch him. Trucks rumbled by again, their covered cargo humming faintly. Daniel felt the cylinder burning in his backpack, though he had wrapped it in cloth to hide its glow. That night, as he sat alone, the alien girl's voice returned to him in memory. One spark can start a fire, but you must decide if you are willing to burn. He clenched his fists. Was he willing? Did he have the courage to put himself in danger for the sake of everyone else? Or was it foolishness, the kind of choice that would end his life before it even mattered? Daniel turned on the radio, desperate for distraction. The announcer's voice was smooth and cheerful, describing how the city's leaders were ensuring stability. But in the background, he thought he heard a faint crackle, a glitch. For just a second, another voice slipped through, low, hurried, almost panicked. Shortages spreading. Power failing. Cover story collapsing. Then the cheerful tone returned, pretending nothing was wrong. Daniel leaned forward, his breath catching. So it wasn't just him. The cracks were already forming. He opened his backpack and pulled out the cylinder again. The glow illuminated his face in the dark. He imagined broadcasting its existence, showing the world what their leaders were hiding. But he also imagined the soldiers storming in, silencing him before he could speak. The knock at his door from the night before returned to his mind. It had not been random. They were already looking for him. The longer he held the cylinder, the more dangerous it became. But then another thought cut through his fear. If they were already hunting him, then doing nothing would not save him. Whether he acted or not, danger was coming. Daniel stood and paced the room, his heartbeat loud in his ears. He thought of the alien girl. She had risked everything to warn him. If she believed in him, could he really run away? Could he live with himself if he chose silence and watched his world wither? He stopped in front of the mirror. His reflection stared back at him, pale, tired, eyes sunken from sleepless nights. For the first time, he realized how small he was compared to the weight of the truth. Yet at the same time, he felt a spark, small, fragile, but real. He whispered to himself, "I can't stay quiet." The words felt strange, heavy, but powerful. He repeated them again, louder this time. "I can't stay quiet." The choice was made. Fear still clung to him, but beneath it burned something stronger. If he was going to be hunted, then he would make his capture matter. He would make sure the truth was seen, even if it cost him everything. Daniel placed the cylinder back into his backpack, wrapping it tightly. He began to plan, his mind racing. How could he show this to the people? Where could he go where no one could shut him down quickly? And then the answer came, the broadcast station. Every home had a screen, every ear tuned to the nightly announcements. If he could reach that signal, if he could hijack it, the truth would spread faster than the lies. It was reckless. It was dangerous, but it was the only path left. Daniel sat back down, the weight of his decision pressing on him. He was terrified, but he no longer felt powerless. He had chosen his side. Somewhere in the night, a faint echo stirred in his memory. The alien girl's voice. "One spark can start a fire." Daniel closed his eyes, gripping the backpack tightly. Tomorrow he would light the spark. The night was colder than usual, or maybe it only felt that way because Daniel's blood ran with fear. His backpack weighed on his shoulders, the glowing cylinder hidden inside. Each step toward the broadcast station felt like stepping closer to death, but he kept moving. The city streets were quiet, yet not silent. Somewhere distant, he could hear trucks rumbling and dogs barking, the background noise of a world slowly breaking. The broadcast station loomed ahead, a tall gray building crowned with antennas that clawed at the night sky. Lights glowed in the upper floors, and 2 guards stood near the entrance, their rifles resting lazily at their sides. Daniel crouched in an alley across the street, his heart hammering. He whispered to himself, "One spark can start a fire." He waited, watching their routine. Every few minutes the guards turned to scan the street, their attention drifting for just a heartbeat. When they turned again, Daniel moved. He kept low, his body pressed against the cold wall, slipping through the shadows until he reached a side door. To his surprise, it was already unlocked, his stomach twisted. Someone had been here before. Was it the alien girl? Or was it a trap? He had no time to wonder. He pushed the door open and slipped inside. The interior smelled of dust and electricity. The hum of machines filled the air. Hallways stretched ahead, empty, dimly lit by flickering lights. Daniel crept forward, his steps careful, ears straining for the sound of approaching boots. His pulse pounded in his throat. At last he reached the control room. Through a glass window, he saw rows of screens, blinking consoles, and a massive panel connected to the station's broadcast system. 2 technicians sat inside, sipping coffee, their eyes heavy with boredom. Daniel pressed against the wall, thinking fast. He had no weapons, no plan beyond getting the truth out. But the cylinder in his bag pulsed faintly, its light leaking through the fabric like a living thing. He burst through the door. "Don't move," he shouted, surprising even himself. The technicians jumped, spilling their drinks. Their eyes widened as they saw the glowing cylinder Daniel now held in his trembling hands. "This," Daniel said, his voice shaking but firm, "is what they're stealing from us. The truth you're told every night is a lie. Help me show them. Help me show everyone." The technicians froze. One looked terrified, the other skeptical. "Who are you?" One asked. A man who's tired of silence, Daniel said. Plug this into the broadcast. Show them before it's too late. For a moment, neither moved. Then the skeptical one stood, shaking his head. You don't know what you're doing. If they catch you, you'll disappear. And if they catch us helping you. Before he could finish, the sound of boots thundered in the hall. Daniel's blood turned to ice. They had found him. Please, Daniel begged, thrusting the cylinder toward the other technician. You know this world is dying. Help me. The frightened technician hesitated, then grabbed the cylinder. He shoved it into an open slot on the console. The screens flickered, static bursting across every monitor. A low hum filled the room as the cylinder's glow spread into the system. The skeptical technician cursed, slamming a switch. You fool. They'll kill us all. The door burst open. Armed soldiers stormed in, rifles raised. Hands in the air, one barked. Daniel stepped in front of the console, his arms spread wide. The people deserve to see, he shouted. On the screens, images flashed. Grainy footage of the compound, the glowing machines, the trucks hauling away stolen containers. For a few seconds, the truth bled into the airwaves, searing into every home, every screen across the city. Then gunfire roared. Sparks exploded from the consoles. The screens flickered violently, some going dark, others holding the image just long enough for the message to burn into memory. The soldiers rushed forward, tackling Daniel to the ground. The cylinder clattered across the floor, glowing brighter with every pulse. One soldier grabbed it, but the light flared, burning his hands. He dropped it with a scream. Chaos filled the room. The frightened technician tried to run but was struck down. The skeptical one raised his hands, surrendering. Daniel struggled, kicking and shouting as soldiers pinned him. They know now, he screamed. You can't stop the truth anymore. A rifle butt slammed into his side, stealing his breath. Pain shot through him, but still he laughed, a broken, breathless sound. He had done it. Even if only for a moment, the people had seen. The lie had cracked. The commander stepped into the room, a tall figure in a dark uniform. His eyes were cold as he looked down at Daniel. Foolish, he said. Do you think this changes anything? The people forget. Fear will silence them again. Daniel spat blood and forced a weak smile. No, he whispered. Fear can't bury the truth forever. You've already lost, the commander's expression hardened. Take him. Daniel was dragged out, his body aching, his vision swimming. As the soldiers pulled him down the hall, he thought he saw a flicker in the shadows, a shimmer of pale skin, silver eyes watching him. The alien girl. She did not move, did not speak, but her presence steadied him. As the heavy doors slammed shut behind him, Daniel held on to one thought. The spark was lit. Whether it burned or died, the choice was no longer his alone. The cell was small, dark, and damp. Daniel sat on the floor, his back against the cold stone wall, his wrists chained. His body ached from the beating, but it wasn't the pain that weighed on him. It was the silence. No voices, no sound of footsteps, only the hum of the lights above. Time blurred inside that place. He didn't know if it had been hours or days, yet through the silence one thought kept him alive. They had seen. Even if only for moments, the people had seen the truth on their screens. The images of glowing machines, the guarded trucks, the pulsing blue essence. Those flashes could not be erased from memory. And memory was dangerous. One night the silence broke. Daniel heard whispers from beyond the walls. Guards spoke in hushed voices, their tones sharp, nervous. He could not make out every word, but pieces reached him. Riots. Crowds refusing orders, power cuts spreading, people demanding answers. Daniel's chest tightened. A faint smile crept onto his bruised face. It had worked. The spark was growing. The next day, soldiers dragged him from the cell. His wrists were bound, his steps unsteady, but his eyes burned with quiet defiance. They brought him into a large chamber filled with officials. At the far end sat the commander, the same cold man who had ordered his capture. The commander studied him. Your little stunt has caused trouble, he said. Crowds gathering, workers refusing their duties, whispers spreading faster than fire. But it will end. Order always returns. Daniel lifted his chin despite the weight of chains. No, he said softly. Not this time. They saw too much. You can't make them unsee it. The commander's lips tightened. One man cannot change the world. Daniel met his gaze. Then why are you so afraid of me? The words hung heavy in the air. The commander's eyes flickered with anger, but he gave no answer. He simply gestured to the guards. Take him away. They dragged Daniel back to the cell. But the seed of doubt he planted that day spread beyond the chamber walls. Outside, the city was changing. Neighbors whispered to each other in the dark, their voices carrying the weight of new suspicion. Workers refused to load trucks, saying they wanted to know what was inside. Families gathered in front of broken screens, replaying the grainy images again and again, telling their children, "This is what they are hiding from us." The lie was cracking. Fear was still strong, but something stronger was rising beneath it, anger. And anger could not be silenced forever. In the shadows of the city, the alien girl moved unseen. Her silver eyes watched the growing unrest, her pale form slipping between streets like a ghost. She found the hidden places where people gathered, listening as they shared what they had seen. Some feared it. Others hungered for answers. But all of them felt it. A shift. One night, she appeared again in Daniel's cell. He had drifted into a shallow sleep, but her voice woke him. "You kept your promise," she said softly. Daniel's eyes snapped open. He sat up, his heart racing. You came back." She knelt beside him, her glow faint but warm in the darkness. "The fire has begun. Your people are no longer blind. They may still be afraid, but fear cannot erase truth. It spreads like light in the dark." Daniel gave a weak laugh. "I'm trapped here. I don't even know if I'll live another day." Her eyes softened. "You planted the seed. That is enough. Revolutions do not begin with armies. They begin with whispers, with doubt, with one person brave enough to show the truth." Daniel leaned back against the wall, exhaustion heavy in his bones. Will they fight? Or will they fall back into silence? The girl looked at him with sorrow and hope mingled. "That choice belongs to them. But you gave them something they cannot ignore. A glimpse of what was stolen. A glimpse of betrayal. Some will resist, some will deny, but others will rise." Daniel closed his eyes, letting her words wash over him. For the first time in weeks, he felt peace. Not because he knew what would happen, but because he had done what he could. The girl touched his shoulder lightly, her hand cool but steady. "You changed everything," she whispered. "And because of you, my people may yet survive as well. If your world falls, mine would have been next, but now there is hope." He opened his eyes, meeting her silver gaze. "Will I ever see it? The change?" She hesitated. Then she whispered, "Perhaps, or perhaps your part ends here, but either way your name will not be forgotten." Before he could answer, the shadows swallowed her and she was gone again. Days later, the unrest exploded into full rebellion. Crowds filled the streets, chanting, demanding answers, refusing to obey. Guards tried to break them, but the numbers grew too large. Barricades went up. Workers stormed depots, seizing supplies. Everywhere the question spread. What are they stealing from us? Daniel did not see it himself. He remained locked in the cell, but he heard the echoes, shouts, explosions, the rumble of a city awakening. He smiled weakly, even as pain coursed through him. The commander returned one last time, his face grim. "You started this," he said, almost in disbelief. Daniel, battered but unbroken, replied, "No, the truth did." Outside, the world trembled on the edge of change. Whether it would fall into chaos or rise into freedom, no one could yet know. But one thing was certain. Silence was broken, and somewhere, watching from the shadows, the alien girl whispered to herself, "One spark was enough."